This is Idiot with a Library Card, and I'm going to continue my examination of the Book of Concord. So, of the documents in this collection of works, this one is quite daunting. And to really get the essence of it, it would involve a multiple episode series. And I may do that in the future, but doing a series within a series feels a little Inception-y. So I'm just going to briefly go over the rest of the documents in the Book of Concord. I would recommend listening to the first two shows of this series. The first show focuses on the Book of Concord as an overall document, and can give you a nice background on it. For this episode, I would say that listening to the Augsburg Confession episode could really help, as the work I'm going to be talking about today is directly tied to the Augsburg Confession. The work I'm going to be talking about today is the Apology of the Augsburg Confession. It was written by the same author as the Confession, Philip Melanchthon. It covers the same subjects in the same order, and if I were to sum up each article like I did for the show on the Confession, it would be almost the same exact show. Now, I know that makes the Apology sound like it's a photocopy of the Confession, but that could not be further from the truth. And just to clarify, an apology, in this case, is a defense of a philosophical treaty. This is a great companion piece to the Augsburg Confession. I would say it can be a little harder to read, as the articles are more in-depth, and some are quite a bit longer. I think I said in the Confession episode that these articles really get to the heart of Christianity. What's cool about this document is that it's a little deeper. So how this work came about is, I think, what makes it so strong. What happened after the Confession was presented to Charles V is that he went to his Catholic advisors and told them to draft a response so that he could basically point out where the Lutherans were in error. They went article by article and pointed out how they thought the Lutherans were wrong. It was never formally presented as a document. It was read aloud and people quickly copied it down. That's not really here or there. I just find it interesting that they never actually presented it in writing. The document, which is now actually written down, is called the Confutation. I will say I have tried to read the Confutation, and I have to say, maybe it's because it hasn't been translated with as much care as the other Lutheran documents, but it is really hard to read. I would generally say, for whatever reason, I find Catholic theological writing of the time to be really bad. I theorize that it may be because most of it was done in a dead language, so you can know how the language works and what the words mean, but I imagine that it's hard to write well in a language that's not used, and was not used a lot, even for church people in their day-to-day life. The services were in Latin, and the Bible was only in Latin for the Catholics. It's not a language they would use while they were out with their friends, or whatever Catholic theologians did in their free time in the 15th and 16th century. What I'm trying to say is this is one of the things I think the whole Book of Concord does really well. It's so very readable. It's one of the things I really like about Luther and his cohorts. It seems like it also kicked off a new wave of Christian writing that, again, was much more reader-friendly and an actual pleasure to read. But back to the Apology. So after the Catholic response, which I will say one thing I'm grateful for, is that they didn't just write like an essay randomly responding to the points the Lutherans made. They went through the Confession article by article in the same order that the Confession was in. And for the most part, although there are like 2 or 3 articles where they do agree with the Lutherans, most of it is rebutting points in each article and where they find the theology wrong. The Apology then was a response to the Confutation, and it goes article by article in response and in defending each article in the Augsburg Confession. What I like about this is that you can take a subject like original sin. You can read the confession, then the confutation, then the apology, and get a great picture as to where everyone stands, not only then, but now. When I say now, I mean Lutherans at least, as I think the Catholics have changed some of their stances on things. Not to muddy the waters more, but sadly, a large portion of Lutherans and the Lutheran Church has abandoned these documents or regards them in name only and does not really accept what they say. But that is a different and very long, angry show I will do in time. So more on the apology. The apology takes each article of the confession and makes them both clearer and sharper. I really like this document, and I know after I am done going over the Book of Concord as a whole, I really want to drill down, especially on the Augsburg Apology and Confession, and go through each article and really explore what they have to say about Christianity. So I'm not going to get too much into it because, again, I think I want to come back to this document and really go over it with a fine-tooth comb. So I'm just going to make a few recommendations if you may be interested or who would be interested in reading the Augsburg Apology. As far as recommendations for the Apology, I have 3. If you're just getting into Christianity or Lutheranism, the Apology is probably not the place to start. It's a document that you want to work up to. If you think you're there, but have not read the Augsburg Confession, read that first. It's a good barometer as to if you'll enjoy and get a lot out of the Apology. Actually, you can cheat, as when you read the confession, or if you listen to my show and there's an article or only a few articles you're interested in, you can read the article in the confession. If you want a more in-depth look at that subject, you can then read the article in the Apology. Lastly, if you really like the Augsburg Confession and you feel like it enlightened you and stirred your soul like it has for me, read the Apology. It's a great read and I really love it. Now, I'm not paid by Concordia Press, but I have a great version of the Book of Concord. And I know I say that every time I do one of these shows, but I really love this book. I really love it as a reference, and when I have questions or want to look at a subject more in depth, the Apology tends to be where I go first in the Book of Concord. This collection of documents is really great, and if theological writing interests you, this is one of the best resources and collection of theological writing. And again, I'll be doing a deeper dive into it as I've really fallen in love with these works. I also would like to say that I think I'm getting into a more normal rhythm and we'll be getting shows out, fingers crossed, on a regular basis. So if you like this, please like, subscribe, and comment wherever you get your podcasts.